Hey everyone, it's BrickWaffle here, and today I'm back with a seed spotlight for the Biomes O'Plenty mod. This is for 1.7.10, and there are a few other mods in this pack. This is using the WaffleMods pack, the link to which will be down in the description. So that might change a few of the biomes. You'll see in just a minute that we do have Botania here, and we also have Witchery installed, and that does change village generation a little bit. But let's go ahead and take a quick look around. Let me turn on our user interface here. You can see I've got a little bit of exploring done on the map. You start out on the snowy beach right here next to some ice, which is right next to a tropical rainforest, so that's a little bit unusual, but you do get wood right away, which is sometimes hard to find other than a few spruce trees. And we do have a little village right here made out of snow and ice. Now these do generate from Witchery, so they add a lot more villages out of different material types, and they're pretty cool. The only downside is with the village being out here in the snow, the regular water between the crops will freeze, so you'll want to get some torches on that pretty quickly, get those things hydrated again, otherwise the crops will dry up and die out. Now there's not a smeltery in here and there's not a blacksmith, but there are quite a few other buildings, so you can have a pretty decent shelter right away. And there's also a dungeon right over here, which will give you access to some little early adventures, make your life a little bit easier and more interesting. That's not the only feature though. If we go the other direction from spawn, and let me just go ahead and set it to be daytime again. If we go the other direction from spawn, you can see that we'll go across right back over there, about where that tree is. That's where we spawned the first time. If you just go about the same distance in the other direction, you'll see in here just a second, if we can get there. Come on, we can get there. Yeah, so this landscape is actually pretty flat. It's going to be really nice for building. If you wanted to build a big town hall here, I could see doing that, or even some large base structures. That'd be pretty cool as well. Just over this way past the spruce trees, and again, here you've got some spruce, and then you've got some oak over here, so you've got plenty of options. You can see this giant ice wall, or snow wall here. And you have another even larger village with walls and everything. And it has one of the strange little goblin huts in here in the middle of it. So this is another Witchery village. It does have a smeltery in this one. It has a guard tower. It's got all sorts of stuff. A couple of libraries, a couple of butchers, a couple of the bigger buildings, big houses. It has another dungeon right here. More crops, of course, a library. There is just all sorts of stuff going on over here. So you can get a whole lot of different materials right away, very easily, and set yourself up pretty nicely. Now there is a little bit of weirdness here with this hill generating in the middle of the village, but it still looks pretty cool. And again, having that early smeltery for free right here with just a couple of tweaks, and having access to a couple of dungeons and some guards, and whatever that explosion was from, probably a creeper attacking a guard, that's all very cool. So hopefully you like this seed. Alright, for our next seed, we spawn up in a Highlands biome, which is kind of interesting. We spawn up around 137-ish, and you can see that right down there is the beach. Normally you spawn next to a beach in these seeds. But that's a pretty long way down. It would be interesting to build up here just because the height makes some pretty cool looking landscapes. The big downside is no easy trees right here. There are some sheep right now, and you can see that we do have a bunch of cobble and even what looks like some aluminum ore or maybe tin ore down there. And you can see out in the distance over here, there are some other trees out there. So let's go ahead and take a quick look this way. You can kind of see on the mini-map that the Highlands biome ends right here, and we go down into some forests. There's lava. There's different kinds of materials over here, so that will give you, I wouldn't say easy access, but you could get access to trees, and it's a really cool looking landscape in both directions. There's also a couple of other things. If we go to around 112 by 1184, and that is a bit of a hike, but if we go this direction, 112 by 1184, you'll see that there is another village over here, and this village is interesting. It's the reason I picked this seed to showcase, so we're going to head that direction. This would be a bit of a walk in survival, I admit. It would be kind of a scary run. And trying to get down here and then back up the other side would be a little bit tough, but doable. I mean, like I said, this kind of looks like steps. You could run down here with a shovel, or even just your bare hands and break enough of a path to get back over this direction. Maybe run a little scary run over to this side, and up through this valley. Once you're over here, it's fairly safe. As long as you can do this before nightfall when you first join in, it shouldn't be too bad. But let's keep going this direction. You can see this interesting features over here. So we've got a little bit of a overhang. This would be kind of cool, and yeah, that will spawn the crap out of some mobs in here in the daytime because it's the only dark area all around. You can see I do have thermal foundation as well, so we've got the basalts in there, and then we've got these little floating chunks, which looks pretty cool. I always like building with stuff like that. Another big flat area here you could build a structure out in front of, maybe a big kind of hemispherical area here. And then we have a nice little orchard down here, some more trees and some other options. We have some wetlands over here, and this is the village that I wanted to show you guys. This is so cool and so weird. I'd never seen anything like this before. It's a mountaintop village that generates way up in the Highlands, And the walls look a little strange just because they blend into the terrain quite a bit. But this village is really compact. All the buildings are really tall. It's hard to get in and out of. And there's a lot of potential here for developing something really cool out of this. This side looks pretty good. There are a lot of monsters that spawn in this cave and wander into the village, so you should be happy that there's some guards here. You might have to wall that off on your own pretty quick, just because once you come into this area, there's going to be a lot of zombies and things spawning. But if you did manage to secure this village, it'd be pretty cool. You do have a watchtower here. You do have another dungeon down this way, so there's a lot of dungeons near villages with the roguelike dungeons mod and the witchery mod side by side. And then up here at the very top, we've got a couple of huts that look like kind of lookout towers up here. So this guy, little hermit up here that lives in a village, or lives in a house by himself in the village, nice little plot of land. It's also got a great view. You can see there's some of these very large trees, a nice view down in the wetlands over here, another explosion in the background. That's always charming. I think that's because there are ender minis that spawn that will attack creepers. Although that sounds like a skeleton with explosive arrows from Mine and Blade, actually. That's probably what that is. So we will have to be careful with this sort of stuff. Being in the dark in this mod pack can be pretty dangerous. But again, a little village over here, a couple little huts. So I like the little isolated parts of the village. They look pretty neat, and you have a really good view of the rest of what's going on. And if you really wanted to be ambitious, you could make a sky bridge that connected this side over to that side. I think that'd be pretty cool as well. So another seed option. You're going to see I like villages in these mods because it gives you immediate shelter and a sense of adventure, and some villagers for trading, which is always fantastic. Alright, next up we have another seed where we spawn next to a cool little lagoon, actually. I really like this. It's just about cut off, yep, right there, from the ocean. So it gives you a nice little pond. It's kind of a little bit of a squid farm right off the bat, which is pretty cool. And you can see you have easy access to trees in this one where we didn't in the previous seed. But if we fly up here, you can see that we have some more of these crags. And I think crags look so cool in Biomes O'Plenty. It's an unusual biome you don't see very often. But if we come back over this way, crag rock kind of looks like this kind of minty green cobblestone. There's a big chunks up here that kind of float above the sky. Some people really like floating chunks, some people don't. But this landscape just looks so cool to me. There's some emeralds down there. We got more floating islands over here. It's just so much potential to build. The real downside to crags is there is absolutely no dirt, no trees, no nothing. But doesn't that water look awesome? I really like the blue color of the water in this biome. And we do have a little bit of melon right here. So we got the melon forest that generates from the random ruins. And then over here we've got some plains with some materials, some horses. It looks like some surface gravel ores. And of course all this forest, you're going to have plenty of stuff to go around. So I think that looks really neat. Now one thing we do want to do is go back to our spawn over here at the lagoon. And there's a couple of things that you might not have noticed. And, well, there's a dungeon right here in the swamp. That's always handy. But right down here, you can see that where we spawned, on next to this lagoon, if we go the other side, there is a hole that goes down to an abandoned mineshaft right at spawn. Isn't that cool? Very, very easy to get into. Of course, you wouldn't want to do that way in survival. But check this out. That abandoned mineshaft is over a ravine. So it's not a huge little area, but this is really neat to have a ravine and some loud monsters and an abandoned mineshaft all within, you know, basically a 1 second or 2 second walk of your spawn. You spawn right here. You just have to turn around. It's right there behind you. So that's really cool. I really like that feature. It's one of the things that made me want to put this seed in the spotlight. Now there are a few other things that we can do. So if we go around to around negative 378, I think, by 1647, which is a bit of a walk over here, you can see that there are some other random structures that generate. Let's see. It's out this way. It's out past here. So if we go along the coast, you've got all these trees. We do have the autumn forests, I believe they're called. Maybe seasonal forest. I can't remember exactly which ones they're called. But these are really, really nice. Gorgeous looking terrain. And I really like this kind of thing because you don't see this in vanilla Minecraft at all. Out here, you see another little lagoon like that. This seed has a bunch of these little things. They're really cool. Some clay generates from the aquatic abyss mod. So that looks like these are supposed to be underwater rocks. And another little structure right out here. This could be a decent little starting home as well. These structures generate from the ruins mod, and this one is a kind of fully functional farmhouse. And then a cherry blossom forest. So lots of different options, lots of different building materials right off the bat. Very cool. I really like that seed a lot. Alright, the next seed spawns you on a beach, as is pretty common in Minecraft, and you can see that we do have one of these little ocean rocks, like I mentioned in the previous seed spotlight, from Aquatic Abyss. It's got a piece of coal in it. That's kind of neat. We spawn here, and again, right in a wetlands area, and that's not terribly interesting. There's a slime island up there, which is kind of cool. But if we go out this direction, you can see that we have a couple of interesting features. We've got a little witch's ring over there, so if you're into witchery, you've got a coven potentially mate right there. And then there's a ravine again, not too far from spawn. This one is pretty full of lava. It's a little bit dangerous. There is water that you could jump down into if you really wanted to be very bold. But this ravine is really cool. I like the look of it. There's a lot of good materials in ravines like this. And it does go underground for a while. It comes back a little bit further. And I think there's a cave back there as well if you start digging around a bit. But again, ravines are great in the early game for easy access to minerals that are fairly deep, but have a nice sunlight in the daytime, fairly safe to go through. And I really like the way that it looks. One thing though, this seed, again, like that previous mountaintop seed, has a rather interesting village. So let's see if we can find that here. We're going to head over to around 269, 869. Let's be about that way, I think. And that's 100 or so blocks this way and a couple of 100 blocks in the other direction. You'll be able to see right off the bat a really big wall. This is very strange. Right after that previous seed, when I said you rarely find mountaintop villages, I did manage to find another one. This is actually the portcullis, and it gets really stretched. So some of these walls look strange, but imagine easy access to all that stone brick. All you'd have to do is mine it up. So that's pretty handy. You don't really need that wall for defense, but it does make kind of a weird staircase up here as well. Now this mountaintop village puts the other one to shame. Look at this. It's actually pretty well put together. The buildings themselves aren't stretched to ridiculous heights, even though the walls are. It's just cool. It's right up here on the top of a mountain. You do have a smeltery in the back. You have a couple of different guard towers, so you've got lots of guards that will spawn here, keep your villagers safe. And this one doesn't have the overhang that constantly spams mobs at you. Right out the back of this guy's house, though, you can see there is a little section at the bottom. And this right here begs for a ladder. This guy's door is pretty dangerous, but you could come straight down here all the way to the bottom. There is an overhang down here that spawns some mobs, but this one little hut and one little farm area, I would love this. You wall off that, keep it, or even just light it up and keep monsters from spawning. This could be your little hut right down here with the walls. Very nice little protection area. And you could have a ladder up to the village where you could get to the villagers and get trades and use the smeltery and all that sort of stuff. Really neat. So hopefully you guys like this seed as well. Alright, for the last seed in our spotlight, we spawn right here on the edge of this bay or inlet, whatever you want to call it. It's got a couple of bits of clay down in here. Those are rocks from Aquatic Abyss. You can also see some of the fish here as well. That's pretty cool looking. There's a slime island out in the distance, and I did go ahead and break a hole in that already so that the slime water would pour down into the ocean. It just looks pretty cool when you get down there. But you spawn next to a hobgoblin hut from Witchery. These guys aren't aggressive. It spawns with a cauldron in here, which isn't terribly useful for you. But there is a torch and a little shelter you could use on the first night if you had to. It's pretty basic, but it would do the trick. And there's the hobgoblin. Hey guy, sorry, I was just showing off your house. Behind us, though, is a bamboo forest. That's pretty cool. We got some lily pads, some sugarcane, bamboo. There's oak in there. There's jungle up in this tropical rainforest over here. We've got more rubber trees. We've got birch trees, I think, back here. There's a couple of those. Really cool. Very good selection of materials at the beginning. There's even a few crops from the hobgoblin over here with some clay on the surface. So it'd be a pretty decent starting spot. And there's a hole right here that looks like one of those little caves you kind of drop into sometimes in Minecraft. But if we take a quick trip down here, you can see that it goes a little bit further in. And I have planned ahead. I've got a night vision potion. Let's go ahead and drink that up. And then down here, you can see that it opens into a very large cave, which is really cool right off the bat. This cave goes on in a couple of different directions. You can see that there's a couple of large chambers down here. It drops down again. I mean, it just goes on and on. There's a lot of different materials here available to us. There's some monsters down here. Thank goodness we're in creative mode showing this off. There's some fossils over here. Lava, water. This goes off this direction. I mean, it's immense. It's really cool. And I really enjoy that this is right here next to spawn. So you could get lost down here pretty easily. Do want to make sure you keep an eye on where you are relative to the surface. But man, this thing just goes on and on forever. I really like it. If we go back, I think it's this direction. You'll see that it opens up into, yeah, here we go. A bit of an abandoned mineshaft this direction and that direction. So you've got that right here at spawn as well. We've got more cave over here. I mean, it's just everywhere. Everywhere you go down here is open area. It's really cool. You're not just going to have to dig into a hill to get cobblestone. You're going to have some adventures right off the bat. We go back up to the surface level. This way, yep, very briefly set ourselves on fire. Let's just go ahead and punch our way out right here. Oops, this is gonna open up into the ocean, but that's alright. You wouldn't probably do that in survival anyway. All of that stuff is right here under this starting lagoon, which is really cool. I like that a lot. Now there's a couple of other features that are pretty neat. So if we go over to around negative 598, I believe, by 808. Let's see that way. 598 by 808. Let's do this. Yep. We're going to fly this way for a little bit. This is a bit of a hike, but it's a feature I rarely ever see in Minecraft, so I thought I'd show that off too. You got lots of options over here. There's surface lava. There's lots of animals for food. Lots and lots of different trees, even a couple of cherry trees right here on the edge, which is pretty neat. And then there's a desert over here, so if you needed sand and glass and that sort of thing, you would have pretty easy access to that. That's a spawner from the Ruins mod, so you can get easy access to spawners if you want to set up a little XP farm early on. There's a little chunk of emerald. So if we come over this way, what did I say, 598,808, I think I've passed that. 598,808, I think it's right down here, yeah. So we drop down into this area, and it's another ravine. That's kind of cool, okay. Down here, though, 598, see if I can find it again. Right down in here, this is pretty cool, too. A couple of ravines that crisscross each other. Lots of easy access to things like diamonds right down here, very easy to find. Of course, there's lots of monsters as well. And then if we come up, whoop, come back up, come up this way. Over here, another big cave with lots more resources. There's just all sorts of stuff over here. This is the cool part, though. Here's a ravine. Inside the ravine. And I think, where is it? There's a really good spot to see this, but it's basically two ravines right next to each other, parallel to each other. Very cool. So just tons of options. A block that needs updating, apparently. Yeah, there it goes. Okay, it's going to start flowing. But, I mean, just imagine this. Here you go. There's another little ravine over here. And it branches off, it forks, it goes all over the place. More caves. This is a great seed. If there's another ravine with a big lava lake at the bottom of it, I mean, miner's delight, really. Who needs that preset type? You can see, here's another one. There's another little narrow canyon on the ravine over here. Crosses over, goes back up across the top. Check that stuff out. That is really cool. So hopefully, guys, if you enjoy caving and mining, this is the seed for you, absolutely. But that's not the only thing here. If we go the other direction for a little while, let's see, out into the desert. If we go to negative 351 by 787, so that's going to be this away. Nope. 351, 787. This direction. You'll see out on the mini-map there's a meteor over here. See if maybe you can probably see the other thing that's coming up. So there's a meteor if you're into AE2. Very, very big meteor. Lots of skystone, plenty of stuff to do. Some glass if you get silk touch. There's a desert temple next to this village. That's pretty cool. And then there's also, there's a desert temple and a dungeon. So we've got all sorts of stuff. This has a smeltery. It's got a guard tower with a bunch of guards on it. It's got crops. You have all sorts of things. A couple of guard towers, actually. So this would be a nice little place to set up shop as well. Very well protected. Good starting area. And the village actually kind of wraps around the hill up here. It comes up to the top. Has a couple of tall houses. And a witch hut, or witch ring rather. So you've got a coven witch from Witchery. Just lots of good choices right here off the bat. Now, quicksand is kind of a pain, but that's anything in Biomes O'Plenty. This seed, though, huge village, lots of food, lots of materials, good starting location. I really like this a lot. It's pretty much got everything you would need to be very successful early game in a survival world. So that's going to do it for our seed spotlight today. Hopefully you enjoyed this tour of the Biomes O'Plenty seeds with the WaffleMods mod pack. If you did, please hit that like button. If you really enjoyed it, then please subscribe. And as always, I've been Brick Waffle. Thank you for watching.